All right, so we are going to go over the cell cycle annotated notes, and these were for homework 327 or 326. Do 327 if you did not turn them in already. So it says you're supposed to be using those 4-3 cell division notes. As an individual, read and annotate today's notes. So annotation just simply means that after or during, preferably during you're taking your notes, that you are kind of answering questions to kind of stop and kind of refresh and review what you've actually just learned about. So the first thing, using the reading summarized by cell division is important. Cell division is important because I'm a little lazy. Oh no. There you go. Of course, this silly thing does not always want to work. It's important because new healthy cells, okay, cells that are being made all over your body, blood cells are made in bone marrow, but new healthy cells can replace, so they are being constantly created, those newer, healthier cells, they can replace damaged cells and replace those, right? So it's going to replace damaged cells. I don't know why this thing's not focusing. Okay. And replaces aging cells. And those that die from disease. Okay. So one thing, let's keep focusing on this because it sucks. One thing you need to kind of understand is that your cells are constantly being replaced. So as maybe you get a bruise or you bump something, those blood cells right there are going to get either very damaged or they're going to die. Or maybe you get a disease like a virus or bacteria and it's going to hurt those cells. If you don't have constantly new cells, new healthy cells that are replacing them, well, you would eventually just die because your cells are not replacing themselves. So kind of the big takeaways that you need to kind of grasp, that the cell cycle is important, or cell division is important for growth, repair, and reproduction. Okay, so growth, repair, and reproduction, GRR. The next thing, it says, the reading says, during the cell cycle, a cell grows, prepares for division, and divides into two new cells. List the names of each stage. The first one's going to be interphase. I don't know why it keeps doing this. It's getting on my nerves. 2 is going to be mitosis. What the heck? 3 is going to be cyto, C-Y-T-O, kinesis. Right? So interphase, mitosis, cytokinesis. 90% of a cell's life is going to be spent in interphase. The second or third question, the reading states that interphase is a time before cell division. Why does interphase have to happen before the cell divides into two daughter cells? The main reason for that is it is important. Sorry, got a phone call. It is important because during interphase, the cell or the DNA is copied. And the reason why that is important, so during interphase, the DNA is copied, which means each new daughter cell gets a complete set of DNA. Okay. So each new daughter cell is going to get a complete set of DNA. Interphase, if the DNA was not copied during interphase, then each new daughter cell would only have half of the DNA. Next one, using the vocabulary words DNA, chromosome, centriole, write a summary, write a sentence summarizing DNA replication. So I'm just going to start off with during DNA replication. DNA replication. The DNA, I know I already used DNA there, but the DNA and proteins form chromosomes. Those little X-shaped or safety scissor looking things. They form chromosomes. They kind of tighten up and condense. They form those chromosomes. Once DNA is replicated, the cell produces structures, excuse me, it should be structures. Structures that will help it divide, and an example of those structures is going to be the centrioles. Okay. So DNA replication occurs first, and then cell division is actually going to take place during mitosis, and then finally cytokinesis. So DNA is replicated in interphase. The next thing says the reading says during mitosis, the cell's nucleus divides into two new cells. Summarize the steps of mitosis. This is where PMAT comes in at. So P is going to be prophase. And that is stage number 1. And this is where the chromosomes condense into X shapes. Those little safety scissors. 2 is going to be the M in PMAT, so metaphase. Meta meaning middle. And even though it's not the middle of mitosis, it is because the chromosomes move to the middle, so meta means middle, so that's how I always remember it, is that metaphase is when the chromosomes move to the middle of the cell. 3, now looking for the A in PMAT. The next one's going to be anaphase. And that is where the chromosomes are actually going to split apart. So the chromosomes split and start moving. So they're going to actually, anaphase, chromosomes split and start moving to opposite sides of the cell. Okay. Then the last part is going to be telophase. Right, for my number 4 there. Telophase is where the nuclear membrane reforms. So remember, the nuclear membrane is the kind of security blanket or little wall around the nucleus. Right? So it's where the nuclear membrane reforms. Okay. During the last part, during cytokinesis, in animal cells, the cell membrane squeezes together around the middle of the cell. The cytoplasm pinches into 2 cells. Each daughter cell gets about half the organelles of the parent cell. So mitochondria, if it's a plant cell, chloroplast, lysosomes, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, etc. Using a diagram of the animal cell, this thing right here, draw an arrow to show where the cell is completing cytokinesis. Right here, okay, you can kind of see where the 2 cells are splitting. That is cytokinesis, okay, so they're actually splitting into 2. Using a diagram of the plant cell, draw an arrow to show where the cell is completing a cytokinesis. So kind of right here, it's a very faint line if you can imagine, that right there is where cytokinesis is taking place. So in between, here's where the cell plate has formed. And then the text says, after cytokinesis, each daughter cell gets about half the organelles of the parent cell. What else was split and put into each new daughter cell? Obviously the DNA, and then also the cell membrane. Okay, that was definitely split. The DNA in this case was in the form of chromosomes. So the DNA and the cell membrane. Right?